My name is Harper Wilson, and I never thought I'd be sharing this story. What happened to me on that cold October night changed everything I understood about our world and the times we're living in. I've spent months processing what I experienced, praying about whether to share it, and now I know I must. The Lord made it clear, this message isn't just for me. I was driving home from visiting my grandchildren in Cedar Rapids. It was around 9:30 p.m., and I remember feeling so blessed after spending the afternoon watching little Emma and James playing in their backyard. Emma had just turned 6 and was showing me her newly lost tooth, while 4-year-old James insisted on pushing me on their swing set. My daughter Sarah made her famous pot roast, and we shared such precious family time together. The night was unusually dark, with heavy clouds obscuring any moonlight. I had about an hour's drive ahead of me, but I didn't mind. At 63, I was still comfortable driving at night, and I used these quiet moments to pray and reflect. I remember thinking about how quickly my grandchildren were growing up and saying a prayer of gratitude for being able to be part of their lives. I was about halfway home when it happened. A deer appeared suddenly in my headlights. I swerved instinctively, but at that speed, on that wet road. The last thing I remember was the world spinning, the screech of tires, and a desperate prayer. Jesus, help me. Then everything changed. The first thing I noticed was the complete absence of pain or fear. One moment I was in my car, and the next, I was enveloped in the most extraordinary light I've ever experienced. It wasn't blinding like the sun. It was pure, living light that seemed to hold wisdom and love within its very essence. I felt weightless, free from all physical constraints. That's when I realized I was no longer in my body. The thought should have terrified me, but instead I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. It was as if every worry, every earthly concern had melted away. I was fully conscious, more aware than I'd ever been in my life, but in a completely different way. Then I heard my name being called. Harper. The voice resonated through my entire being. It carried such authority and gentleness that I instantly knew who it was, even before I turned to see him. Jesus stood before me, and nothing in my 63 years of being a Christian could have prepared me for this moment. His presence was overwhelming, not in a frightening way, but in its absolute perfection. His eyes held such deep love and understanding that I felt completely known, yet completely accepted. He wore robes of light that seemed to be made of pure holiness, and his face, I can't adequately describe it. It radiated with a glory that our human words simply can't capture. "My child," he said, and his voice carried the weight of eternity. "I have brought you here for a purpose. There are things you need to see, things my church needs to understand about the times ahead." I found myself able to speak, though not with physical words. "Lord," I said, "am I dead?" He smiled with such tenderness. "Your body is between life and death for these moments. You will return, for you have a message to carry. But first, you must witness what is to come, so you can warn my people and prepare them for the final days." What followed was unlike anything I could have imagined. Jesus took my hand, and suddenly we were moving through what I can only describe as dimensions of time and space. He began to show me visions of the near future, explaining each scene with perfect clarity. The first vision was of our current world, but seen from a spiritual perspective. I saw how digital technology and modern conveniences, while not inherently evil, had become idols for many believers. People were so consumed with their devices, social media, and endless entertainment that they were missing the spiritual signs all around them. "Look carefully," Jesus said, indicating the masses of people I saw before me. "Many of my children have fallen into a spiritual slumber. They attend church, they say their prayers, but their hearts are divided. They seek comfort in the world rather than in me. The enemy has crafted a perfect distraction, keeping them busy with good things while missing the best thing, true intimacy with me." I watched as people rushed through their days, constantly connected to their phones, but disconnected from God's presence. I saw Christians spending hours scrolling through social media, but barely minutes in genuine prayer. It was heartbreaking to witness. "But Lord," I asked, What about all the Christian content online? Isn't that good? Some of it serves my purpose, he replied. But much of it has become like fast food for the soul. Quick, convenient, but lacking true spiritual nourishment. My people need to return to their first love, to seek me in the quiet places, to hunger for my word more than they hunger for likes and followers. The scene shifted, and I saw what appeared to be the near future. There was an increasing hostility toward genuine Christian faith. It wasn't obvious persecution yet, but rather a subtle pressure to compromise biblical truth for the sake of social acceptance. Watch, Jesus said, as the division begins. I saw churches splitting over fundamental doctrines. Some stood firm on biblical truth, while others began to adapt their message to match the culture. The pressure to conform was intense, and many believers found themselves having to make difficult choices between their faith and their social standing, their jobs, even their family relationships. This is just the beginning, Jesus explained. These divisions will force my true followers to decide whom they will serve. Many will fall away, choosing the approval of men over the approval of God. But those who stand firm will grow stronger in their faith. The vision continued to unfold, showing me a series of events that Jesus explained would mark the beginning of the final 7 years of Earth as we know it. I saw a charismatic leader emerging on the world stage. His words were compelling, and his solutions to global problems seemed perfect. Even many Christians were drawn to his message of peace and unity. This is the deceiver, Jesus said solemnly. He will appear as an angel of light, promising peace and prosperity. Many will be deceived because they haven't grounded themselves in my word and my presence. I watched as this leader implemented a new global system for commerce and governance. It seemed to solve many of the world's problems: poverty, conflict, and economic instability. But there was something deeply unsettling about it all. Notice how he speaks of spirituality, but never of me, Jesus pointed out. He promotes a universal faith that appears inclusive, but denies my deity and the power of my blood. This is the great deception I warned about in my word. The vision shifted again, and I saw another figure rising to prominence: the false prophet. What shocked me most was how he performed what appeared to be miraculous signs and wonders. I saw him calling fire from heaven and performing supernatural healings. Lord, I asked, how will people know the difference between these false miracles and your true power? Those who know me intimately will discern the difference, he replied. The false prophet's signs will draw attention to himself and the Antichrist, while true miracles point people to me and my sacrifice on the cross. This is why it's crucial for my people to develop deep spiritual discernment now, before these events unfold. I watched as these false miracles convinced many to follow the Antichrist's system. Even some who I recognized as current Christian leaders were deceived, leading their followers astray. Then Jesus showed me something that broke my heart: the implementation of the mark of the beast. It wasn't presented as something evil, but rather as a brilliant solution to the world's problems. It was portrayed as a way to ensure security, eliminate poverty, and unite humanity. Watch how it will be presented, Jesus said. I saw clever marketing campaigns presenting it as the next step in human evolution, a way to enhance human capabilities and ensure universal prosperity. It was tied to a new digital currency system that promised to eliminate financial inequality. Many will not recognize it for what it is, Jesus explained. They will see only the benefits: convenience, security, belonging. But accepting this mark will be a conscious choice to reject me and pledge allegiance to the enemy's system. I saw how people who refused the mark were gradually excluded from society. They couldn't buy food, access medical care, or participate in the economy. Many lost their homes and jobs. But I also saw something beautiful: communities of believers coming together, supporting each other, sharing what they had. My true church will shine brightest in this darkness, Jesus said. They will demonstrate my love and power in ways that will draw many to salvation, even in the midst of great persecution. The vision continued, showing me massive natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, and strange weather patterns that defied scientific explanation. But these weren't random events. They were signs and warnings. These events will increase in frequency and intensity, Jesus explained. They are birth pains, signaling that the end is near. Many will try to explain them away, but my people will recognize them as fulfillment of prophecy. I saw how these disasters caused global food shortages and economic instability, which the Antichrist used to consolidate his power. But I also saw how God protected and provided for his faithful followers in supernatural ways. Then Jesus showed me something that filled me with both awe and dread. The final 3.5 years of the tribulation period. The Antichrist's true nature was revealed as he broke his peace treaty with Israel and set himself up in the temple, demanding to be worshipped as God. This is when the greatest persecution of my people will begin, Jesus said. But it is also when I will pour out my Spirit in unprecedented ways. Many will come to faith during this time, though it will cost them their lives. I witnessed scenes of both horror and glory, believers being martyred for their faith, yet dying with such peace and joy that their executioners were convicted and came to Christ themselves. I saw underground churches growing rapidly, despite intense persecution. The gospel was spreading like wildfire, even as the world systems tried to stamp it out. Jesus then showed me how this period would end, his glorious return. The sight was beyond anything I could adequately describe. The sky split open, and he appeared with the armies of heaven. His return wasn't as the humble carpenter of Nazareth, but as the King of Kings, coming in power and great glory. This is what my people must remember, he said. No matter how dark things become, my return is certain. Victory is assured, but many are not ready. They have built their lives on sand instead of the rock of my word. Throughout all these visions, Jesus emphasized certain key points that he wanted his church to understand. The importance of developing intimate relationship with him now, before the difficult times come. He showed me how many Christians were like the foolish virgins in his parable, having a form of religion, but no deep, personal relationship with him. The crucial need for biblical literacy and discernment. Those who were deceived were often those who didn't truly know his word or his voice. The necessity of detaching from worldly systems and comforts. Those who were most prepared were those who had already learned to depend completely on him rather than on human systems. The power of community among true believers. Those who tried to go it alone during the tribulation period struggled far more than those who were connected to other faithful believers. The urgency of sharing the gospel now, while there is still time. I saw how many would wish they had spoken up when they had the chance, before the persecution began. As the visions concluded, Jesus turned to me with such love in his eyes. Harper, you must share what you have seen. Many will dismiss it, but some will hear and prepare. Tell them that I am coming soon, but first, these things must take place. Tell them to draw close to me now, while there is still time. I felt myself beginning to return to my body, but before I did, Jesus gave me one final message. Tell my people that I love them more than they can comprehend. Everything that is coming is part of my perfect plan to separate the true from the false, the wheat from the tares. Those who truly know me will not be deceived. Tell them to seek me while I may be found, to build their houses on the rock of my word, and to prepare their hearts for what is coming. Then, suddenly, I was back in my body. I later learned that I had been clinically dead for 13 minutes after the car crash. The paramedics had already called time of death when my heart suddenly started beating again. My injuries were serious, multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, but I recovered fully within a few months. The doctors called it a miracle, but they don't know the half of it. The true miracle was what I experienced during those 13 minutes, and the message I was given to share. I've spent much time in prayer about when and how to share this experience. The Lord has made it clear that now is the time. We are rapidly approaching the events I was shown, and God's people need to prepare spiritually for what's coming. This isn't a message of fear, but of hope and preparation. Jesus isn't coming back for a fearful, cowering church, but for a bride who knows him intimately and stands firm in his truth. The time to prepare is now, not by stockpiling supplies or building bunkers, but by developing an unshakable relationship with Jesus Christ. If you're reading this, please understand. This isn't just another end-time story. This is a wake-up call from Jesus himself. The time is short, and he's calling his people to return to their first love, to lay aside every weight and distraction, and to prepare their hearts for his return. The choice is yours now. Will you heed this warning? Will you draw closer to Jesus while there is still time? Will you allow him to prepare you for what's coming? Remember, he doesn't show us these things to frighten us, but to prepare us. His perfect love casts out all fear, and in him we have nothing to fear. I share this testimony with prayer that it will accomplish what God intends, to wake up those who are sleeping spiritually, to encourage those who are already awake to press in deeper, and to prepare the bride of Christ for the challenging but glorious days ahead. May God give you wisdom and discernment as you consider what I've shared, and may he draw you closer to himself as you prepare for his return.
Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or gave you a deeper sense of hope, consider subscribing to this channel. By doing so, you'll join a community of faith, encouragement, and shared stories. Remember, God sees your steps of faith, and as you seek him, his blessings and guidance will abound in your life. Hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it with others who need to hear this message. Together, let's spread his light and love to the world. God bless you.